For adornment this week, I want to show you this exquisite little perfume bottle that is filled with the most beautiful, stunning scent. And I purchased this in Dubai last week. And I chose it, of course, I chose it for the scent. So the base of it is oud, which is a remarkably rare and refined scent from resin. It's something I've long loved oud, so I knew that I wanted to find something with it. And I also chose the bottle, so there was a choice of different bottles, much larger ones. This is actually the smallest one. And I said to the vendor, I want the smallest one. I want something very exquisite and rare because I wanted to reflect this sense of this scent being so cherished. So it's an interesting thing actually with the approach to luxury. How do we approach wealth and luxury? For me, opulence is the word that I gravitate towards. Opulence is the vibe that I feel. So, why did I ask for the smallest bottle, not the largest one? Well, for me, it's about preciousness. It is that which is exquisite. So, when we think about adornment, my whole sense of adornment is that which is exquisite. And yes, it doesn't mean that we shrink. It's not about being invisible. So, there's a very important point here about size and visibility. It's easy, certainly in today's very sort of flat, one dimensional world, to think of bigger equals better. The more you have, accumulate more, show more, be flashy. But that is not how I perceive opulence. It's not how I perceive adornment. And it's also not how the tradition perceives adornment. So, impact comes from precision. And I'm not saying that everything has to be small. On another occasion, I may have asked for a much larger bottle. And in fact, often with my jewelry, I tend to exaggerate because that's one of the ways of projecting one's presence and style for stage presence. We want to exaggerate the essence, but this also exaggerates an essence. This tiny, beautifully put together, cherishable bottle is also an exaggeration. So I started thinking about adornment and potency because when we train and perform in classical Indian dance, and that remains my basis, the foundation for everything that I do, it's where I learnt everything about, not just about aesthetics and performance, but actually dance has given me my worldview. So that which is potent is precise. You can act with force in a very unmanaged way, and yes, that also has an impact. But the kind of impact that we want to create, the kind of impact that uplifts, that nourishes, that brings through spiritual reality into the physical, that requires potent, precise, and refined quality. I've been thinking a lot this week about the power of I am, the Sanskrit aham, that pure, unqualified I amness. And in fact, when I was in Dubai last week, I had shared on Instagram a little video of the skyline. One evening we were having dinner in a restaurant that overlooked, it had this beautiful view of the Dubai skyline. And I was very in the akashic field of Dubai. Last week's YouTube video is all about that akashic field and how accessing the akashic field of different places actually enables and invites different aspects of self-expression. So looking at this skyline as we were enjoying this exquisite dinner, it struck me this pure I amness that was being expressed in the skyline. It was sheer, here I am. So I've been really marinating in that impression, and it's led me into thinking about, if you know the Vedic literature, there is this phrase, tat tvam asi. You are that. And the that is Brahman. It is the undiluted, unqualified reality out of which all manifestation pours. And it is the substance, the momentum, the creative power behind and through all manifestation. And yet it is also unqualified. It is that pure presence, pure I am. And this is actually what we are pursuing in all practices towards self-realization. We are seeking to touch, remain in, and cultivate our being in that state, being in the unqualified awareness of I am, I am. In some tantric lineages, this is referred to as aham bhava. Aham bhava. That is the state of being of I am. Not qualified by any quality, by any action, by any emotion. It's unqualified awareness. So the reason that we are cultivating this is that, of course, it has its own spiritual release, its own spiritual end goal on its own. But for me and for my clients who are performers, who are artists, who are athletes, who are business owners, who are in politics, these are people who have something important to do in the world. They are creating a better world. So they have to be very present in their work. They have to be very present in their real life. And when they are presenting in public, their presence needs to be powerful. The benefit of cultivating aham, the ability to be in this state of aham, the benefit is that when, as a performer, as a presenter, you are in front of your audience, like I am now, on YouTube, on Zoom, or on a stage, you have the ability to potently present to your audience. Because in this moment, I'm aware of the room, I'm aware of the material that I'm sharing, my senses are turned outwards, my mind is engaged, but underneath it, there is this awareness, I am. There is this awareness of consciousness that is the foundation. It's like, in this moment for me, it's like a hammock that is gently holding everything else. This is precise, potent being. Precise, potent sharing that is enabled by cultivating the ability to rest in aham, to rest in this state of unqualified consciousness. So after coming back from Dubai, my consumption, what I'm eating, it's actually been really interesting because that week shifted quite a lot for me, as you would have seen from last week's video. So interestingly, some of my eating patterns have also changed. I mentioned that the previous week I had deliberately prepared for travel, but I was also, because I was going through this sort of upgrade internally and energetically, I was eating a lot of crisps and that was very drying. Well, interestingly, once I've come back, that is completely left. I've cut that out completely, which truly actually is a much more natural way of eating for me. I don't tend to eat that sort of dry food. I never have, even as a child. But somehow in the last few years, I've been reaching for that kind of snack. It seems to have gone. It's really interesting how, when we are open to the portal of specific akashic fields, and I knew this was coming up, I didn't know exactly what it was going to be like being away, but I had that sense because, like I say, I was already in this portal of energetic shift. So when we fully embrace that kind of energetic shift, it's remarkable because you have no idea which aspects of your life are also going to be upgraded. And it's like I've just been landed back into my natural way of being around food and my body and consumption. So the other piece here is that because I had prepared for the whole week before I traveled, it had already lifted my baseline. And because I had lifted my baseline, not just in the 24 hours before I left or the hour before, but for a whole week, my system was now in a different state. There was this sort of buoyancy. And I think it actually created a kind of expectation in my body. Like, oh, okay, we're going to do something different now. I'm open to doing something different. And because of that, the week that I was away, I was able to fully, it feels like the body was just able to fully recalibrate without any resistance. And the other thing is that once I've been back, I haven't been strict with myself. I have definitely not been directing, we're going to do this, we're not going to be doing that. I have not been directing my body at all. I've been listening to my body, and I've been taking instructions from my body. And again, truly, that is much more natural for me. That is just, I know that when I'm operating this way, this is when I'm at my best. This is when things are going smoothly. This is when everything works well. Because from the time I was very small, certainly from the time I started training in dance, I tend naturally to let my body lead the way. That is what works well. So I haven't, like I say, I haven't been putting any restrictions or any rules or any kind of practices as such in place. I have been taking my neem and turmeric again because I was aware for the week that I was away, I didn't have any of that with me. So I've been taking my neem and turmeric again. I've also been drinking water so that there is that extra hydration, but it's all been flowing quite naturally and easily. So yeah, I'm back in this space of easy consumption and I'm really enjoying it. And it's been the same with my sadhana. I have not gone back into a routine. Um, it's fascinating. I think when it comes to sadhana, we often can go hard. We can often put into place schedules that we feel we have to stick to. And yes, there is a place for that. There is no question that there is a place for creating a discipline for yourself, a commitment to follow a particular schedule of practice over a period of time. There is absolutely no question that that has real impact and it can be beneficial. But it's not the only way. So one thing I noticed this morning, I was getting ready to go out for my morning tea. And when I was preparing, I was doing an oil practice, and I was choosing which oil to use. I was about to reach for the neem oil, but I had this image come into my mind of a potential kind of conflict or friction with a particular person. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I could sense that the neem, which has that bitter quality, was not the right oil to have on my body, because I did not want to put out, I did not want to coat myself with this energy of bitter. So I chose the almond oil instead, which has a sweetness about it. And what was very interesting was that when I was out, there was a potential situation for a little bit of friction, not conflict, but friction. I met someone who had just had a particular quality, a slightly off quality about him, which he does not usually have. And because I had had this very prescient image, I was able to diffuse the situation with a sweetness. It was very easy. It was a very brief interaction. But here's the thing, and this is how it relates to sadhana. That experience that I had of choosing the oil, of having this very particular image come into my mind, and then being able to act on it. First of all, this was not intuition. This was very precise prescience. That is a knowing in advance. It was very precise. It was a very specific image of a particular person, and the awareness that the interaction could either have a slight friction about it, or it could be sweet. And it was up to me to choose. I had the capacity and the ability and the opportunity to choose in advance how to ensure that the friction, the potential friction, was dissolved. That is very precise information that is coming through to me from the subtle akashic space. Now, I know that the times that I have access to that kind of prescience, my sadhana was also very intuitive and flowing. I was not following a particular regimen. It's actually like there are threads in our akashic fields, particular loops. There are particular loops of patterns that come up to show us you are in this state now, or now you are in that state. It's information coming through all the time, information about my particular state of being, and information about the kind of sadhana that I should be doing, or rather the kind of approach that I should have to my spiritual practice. It's also information about the state of buoyancy that I'm in my life, or the kind of phase that I'm in. Because like I say, the last time I had almost an identical experience of getting up in the morning, being about to go out and having literally a prescient image of a potential friction, and then knowing how to diffuse it, being aware so that I could diffuse it. It was literally almost like a repetition of the exact same pattern. And the last time I had that was quite a few years ago. I remember exactly where I was living, and I remember the exact pattern. I remember the process of that morning and where I was going, and I remember the details of that experience. It's like there's this slice of a pattern that is repeating itself, and it's coming up as a mirror for me to say, this is what's happening in your akashic field right now. This is the type of approach that you are having in your sadhana. And this is the type of experience that you are having in your life. It was a very beautiful, exquisite time in my life. And if you've been following my work for a while, you'll know that I went through a massive death of identity. It was a very turbulent few years from late 2019 up until quite recently. So I'm taking this experience that I had this morning with the choice of the oils and the prescient moment. I'm taking that as an indication of the space that I am now in my life. And it is an affirmation, it's a confirmation actually, because literally in the last couple of days, I've been feeling back in my natural power, in my natural flow, in a way that I have not felt in a very long time. So this is how our akashic field works. This is how our patterns are actually continually coming through. They are signs. There are images. There are specific patterns of thought, behavior, experience that can continually come through to whisper to us, this is where you are now. And it's a very potent, precise piece of information. Again, we're back to this idea of precise and potent. It's a precise, potent piece of information that I can now take and use as a guide for my sadhana, a guide to the way that I approach life, a guide to the way that I am open to living, and also a guide through which I can create very powerful success, because now I know the state of play. Now I know the state that I am in, and because I'm in this state, I can act in a particular way. When I'm in a different state, when I was in the turbulence, I had to act in a way that it was appropriate to the turbulence. I had to hold my center and just keep taking the next step and the next step, even though it felt like I was swimming through treacle blindfolded. But I had the power, and it is an empowerment, to know how to be in that state, to know how to make the most of that part of my life. By following the signs that come through from the akashic field, we are always able to be empowered, whichever aspect, whichever part of our life we are going through.